Hello, in this video we're going to learn how to use the SUMIF function in Microsoft Excel, both using text and numbers as criteria. We are going to discuss the different parameters needed for the SUMIF function to work and when some of these can be avoided. In order to have a more richer learning experience, we are going to use this sample data. This data shows a list of all sales performed by 5 different agents. In this case, John, Alex, Susan, Alice, and Matthew. It also shows each product they sold, the category each product falls into, and the amount of every sale. This is a very good example because we can come across this in our daily life. Let's say we manage these 5 agents and we want to calculate the total sales for every agent. Or let's say we are the manager of this store and we want to calculate the total sales because we want to figure out if any of these agents deserve a commission. For these purposes, we can use the SUMIF function. We can calculate the total sales for all 5 agents in this small table in column ZH. So let's go to cell H2. To input any formula into Excel, the first thing we have to do is input the equal sign. Once we have the equal sign in, we start typing the name of the function, SUMIF. As you can see, Excel starts suggesting. Double click here, SUMIF. As shown and recommended by Excel, the SUMIF function has 3 parameters. The first parameter is the range we want to apply the criteria on. Pay attention to this. The second parameter is the criteria we are applying to this range. And the third parameter is the range we want to apply the sum on. So in this case, what would be the range we want to apply the criteria on? For our purposes, we need to use column A, because column A is the one that has the name of every agent, and we only want to pick the sales that belongs to one specific agent, in this case John. So we go and select all the way from A2 to A17. Click on comma to move on to the next parameter. Now we need to specify what is the criteria we want to apply to this range. The criteria we want to apply is the name of John, because we only want to take into consideration the sales that are related to John in this case. So we type John within quotation marks. Click on comma. Now we need to select the range that we want to apply the sum on. The range we want to apply the sum is the amount column. So we select all the way from D2 to D17. Click on enter, and we see that John has a total of 8,300 in sales. Now let's go back because I want to explain very well how does the function works. A lot of people confuse this. They say, oh, you're doing the sum on this range, D2 to D17, so why you don't sum all this data? Now, this is what the formula is doing. The formula is saying, if A2 here is equal to John, then sum D2. And then it goes to the next row. If A3 is equal to John, then sum D3. And so on and so on and so on until we get to the last cell, A17. So what the formula does is, it applies the criteria to every cell in this range. And if that criteria matches, then he applies the sum on the corresponding cell of the other range. Click on enter. And let's scroll just to get the formula in for the other agents. We scroll down here to H6. We get the same number, but something is wrong here. We didn't fix the reference. If you see here, our data does not change. A2 to A17 and D2 to D17. If you go here, you shift the one row down, here another row down, and so on and so on. So we go back here and let's try to fix this reference because it does not change. It's always the same. To fix a reference or to place a reference in absolute, we need to place the $sign in front of the item we want to fix. If you want to fix the column, you place a $sign in front of the column letter, for the A in this case. If you want to fix the row, you place a $sign before the row number, before the 2 in this case. Or a shortcut for this, you can press on the F4 key on your keyboard and Excel will do it for you. So we click here, click on F4, there you go, click on F4, there you go, click on enter, and now we can scroll. We scroll to H6 and we check, and yes, it is the same range now because we fix it. Okay, but now we need to change the criteria. For this one, we have to change the criteria to Alex, because this is Alex row. Here we change it to Susan. Here we change it to Alice. And just to show you that the criteria is not case sensitive, I'm going to type Matthew with lowercase m. You see it still works. If you pay attention here, Matthew is always written with the capital M. Here, I didn't write the capital M and it still worked. So it means that the criteria in this formula is not case sensitive. It doesn't matter if it's all lowercase or caps, it will still work. There you go. Now we have the total sales for every agent. But let's go back. We could have done this a little bit more straightforward. Let's say we go back here to H2 to John. Instead of writing down the criteria, the text John, I have the names already here in this column G. So I can use a cell reference that points out to the name I want to use as the criteria. So I'm erasing John and select here G2. So I'm telling the formula my criteria is in G2, which in turn is the name I'm looking for. Click on enter and we see that it still works. Now I can scroll, and because I didn't fix G2, it will pick the reference from here. Scroll down to H6 and you see that it's still the same number. We have the total sales for each agent. We can apply a nice total here to get the total sales for all agents. In here we can do a sum function and select all the way from H2 to H6, click on enter. There you go. That's the total sales for every agent and the total sales for the whole store. Alright, so we learned how to use the SUMIF function using text as criteria, and we also saw that we can use a cell reference that points out to the text that we have as criteria. So that way we can automate a little bit and avoid typing. Now let's see how we can use the SUMIF function using numbers. Let's say we want to do a small analysis here. We want to look at our data and we want to figure out whether most of our sales come from smaller items which are less than $1,000, or it comes from more expensive items greater than $1,000. So I go here to H10, type the equal sign, start typing the function, SUMIF, double click. Now we need to select the range we want to apply the criteria on. In this case, the range we want to apply the criteria is the amount range, because this is the range that has the value of the cells. So we select from D2 to D17. Click on comma. Now we need to specify what is the criteria we want to apply on the range. The criteria we want to apply is we want to select, or we want to take into account only the items that are less than 1,000. However, pay attention to this. Even though you're using numbers, you still need to let Excel know what is the criteria using quotation marks. So don't forget the quotation marks. If you don't use them, the function will work. Now the sum range. Interestingly, because the sum range is the same range as the range we are applying the criteria on, we do not need to specify it. So in this case, we can avoid it. Click on enter, and you see that it still works. Let's scroll the function to get the formula in here. Let's go back in. We see that it shifted. I wrote down because we didn't fix the reference. So let's fix the range from D2 to D17, and now the criteria is greater than $1,000. Click on enter, and there you go. Most of our sales do come from more expensive items. So yes, we should focus more on these items. Now, we already saw how to use the SUMIF function using numbers as criteria, but I didn't automate it like it this way. So let's show you how you could do a small trick in case you want to use a cell reference that contains the value. For example, our target value here is 1,000. Let's place that value here in H9. Let's say that's the target value. So we go back to the function. Well, we want to sum from D2 to D17, and the criteria is less than 1,000. But this 1,000, I want to use a reference. Can I select H9 within the quotation marks? Will it work? It doesn't work because the formula is not reading H9 as a reference. You see the cell is not highlighted. However, I can let Excel know that I want to use this less than sign and concatenate it with the cell reference. So you place the less than sign, comparison sign, and you concatenate it with the cell reference H9. To concatenate in Excel, you use the ampersand symbol. There you go. So now Excel does understand the reference. You see that the cell gets highlighted in green. So it does understand now. Click on enter, and now it works. It still is the same value. I go back. Let's fix the reference. I click on F4. Click on F4 again. Now it's 6. Enter. Now it's scroll. And yes, the reference is fine now. But this is not fixed, so I gotta fix this too. H9, F4, now it's 6. Because this doesn't change. It's the same number because the symbol, I have to change the symbol. Now I change the symbol, and yes, now it works. What is the benefit of doing it this way? Because now I can look at any other target value. I can change it here to 1,000, and the numbers automatically change. I can change it here to 3,000, and the number change. Let's say 5,000. So you see, now we have more sales from items that are less than 5,000 than items that are greater than 5,000. All right. Thank you very much for watching my video. Please feel free to ask questions, leave suggestions, or ask for topics you want me to create videos for in the comment section below. I will be glad to assist. Thank you so much.